My father was 64 when he was diagnosed with cancer. Like you, he was a vital member of his community. He was a teacher, a basketball coach, a house painter in the summers, and a veteran, having served during the Vietnam War. After a long, courageous battle, he died in 2016 at the age of 68. Far too soon. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about him. Cancer affects everyone. I doubt there is anyone in the audience today who hasn't been personally impacted by cancer. Whether it's your father, mother, aunt, uncle, or your brothers and sisters in the fire service, cancer is all too common and devastating. But, at least in some cases, cancer may be preventable. Could my dad's workplace exposures have increased his cancer risk? Could measures have been taken to reduce his risk? Answering these questions for all workers is critically important and a primary mission of NIOSH. Research suggests that firefighters are disproportionately affected by cancer. Most firefighters understand the dangers of running into a burning building, but they may not appreciate the long-term risks from simply doing their jobs. This is an issue near and dear to my heart as a researcher, but also as a friend. Many of my friends are firefighters, and some of them are currently battling cancer. I know that this is also an issue of great importance for IAFF and General President Schaeberger. I believe that together we can lay the groundwork for addressing this continuing threat to the fire service. I've had the privilege of working with IAFF over the years on a variety of health and safety issues, and I presented at several IAFF conferences like this one. There's no question that IAFF cares deeply about its members' health and well-being, and is constantly seeking out more information, guidance, and research. IAFF should be commended on their commitment to better protect this important workforce. Thank you. As leaders in the fire service, I imagine many of you have heard of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH. We certify respirators, publish the NIOSH Pocket Guide, conduct firefighter fatality investigations, but we do a lot more than that. At our core, we are a research organization that's committed to improving workplace health and safety throughout the United States. Our director, Dr. John Howard, sends his warm wishes. He wanted to be here. He loves the fire service, but he unfortunately had other commitments. Dr. Howard has always been a fervent supporter of first responders going back decades. I too care deeply about first responders. I've devoted my career to better understanding firefighters' chemical exposures and health effects. I have worked closely with many of the leaders in this area, including the Illinois Fire Service Institute, University of Arizona, University of Miami, and Underwriters Laboratories. Everyone I've encountered who is studying firefighters has been incredibly collegial, cooperative, and selfless. Our goal as researchers should not be to make a name for ourselves, but rather make a difference in society, and that is certainly reflected in the fire service researchers I know. In fact, as we speak, NIOSH researchers are hard at work studying the protective properties of turnout gear, the effectiveness of laundering gear, exposures encountered during structure fires, wildfires, including the urban interface, arson investigations, training fires, and potential chronic health effects experienced by firefighters, including the brave men and women who responded to the World Trade Center attack in 2001. Thanks to the federal government's continued support, we continue to learn about the chronic health effects among World Trade Center exposed first responders and are administering the health care and compensation they deserve. We are also actively investigating firefighters' exposures to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, from a variety of possible sources. Certain types of PFAS do not break down and remain in the environment where they could expose people. NIOSH has recently begun studies to measure PFAS on personal protective clothing and exposures among airport rescue firefighters and others who used AFFF foams containing PFAS. We are also working with university partners and others to assess PFAS toxicity. These analyses may help us better understand how PFAS can affect the expression of certain genes, including those related to cancer promotion or suppression. NIOSH also published the largest cancer cohort study of firefighters in 2014. That project is the seminal study that showed firefighters have an increased risk of certain types of cancer compared to the general population, and that firefighting exposures may increase that risk. The reality is, there has been more research done in the last 10 years than in the last century. Let that sink in for a moment. We know more today about firefighters' exposures and health effects than ever before. We have learned that firefighters can absorb carcinogens during structure fires even when they wear all the appropriate PPE. We have learned that turnout gear can become contaminated with a variety of harmful chemicals, many of which can persist for years if not properly decontaminated. We have learned that fire instructors can accumulate toxicants from participating in repeated training fires, and that the type of fuel used for those fires also makes a difference. But we have also learned that gross decon can remove much of this contamination. We've learned that cleaning skin and showering after a fire response can reduce exposures. We've learned that keeping contaminated gear out of the apparatus can also lessen exposures. We've learned that contaminated hoods should be exchanged with clean hoods. We've learned that turnout gear should be laundered after fire responses. We've learned that instructors can reduce exposures for their students and themselves by implementing many of these controls. We also know that fire departments often need evidence to support implementing controls, especially those that cost money, which is why NIOSH works hard to make our results and recommendations publicly available. We want important research findings to be translated into action. That is why we also share our findings directly with IAFF and other fire service organizations. It is clear that firefighters are exposed to carcinogens, and it is also clear that a lot can be done to reduce those exposures. But there is still much work to be done. Most of our studies that have examined cancer in the fire service have focused on career firefighters in large metropolitan areas. But what about minorities who make up 20% of the fire service? What about females who make up 5% of the fire service? What about fire instructors who may participate in more training fires than emergency fires? What about wildland firefighters, where the wildfire season keeps getting longer and more severe? What about airport rescue firefighters, who may have unique exposures to AFFF? What about arson investigators, industrial firefighters, federal firefighters, volunteer firefighters, and so on? What does the cancer risk look like for these groups? Is the cancer risk getting better, or is it getting worse? Has the tremendous increase in synthetic materials in our homes, business, and automobiles led to increasing exposures and risk of cancer for firefighters? Are the controls being implemented in fire departments around the country reducing these cancer risks? These are critical questions to answer, and NIOSH is committed to working to getting those answers. Thanks to many of you in the audience, NIOSH is now making good on that commitment. Back in July of 2018, the President signed the Firefighter Cancer Registry Act of 2018, thanks in large part to the efforts of IAFF. NIOSH has been charged with leading this effort, which we are calling the National Firefighter Registry, or NFR. We are calling it the National Firefighter Registry because it will be open to all firefighters regardless of health status. You do not need to have cancer to register. The NFR is essentially an opportunity for you to say, I'm a firefighter, I care about cancer, and I want to help NIOSH understand the link between firefighting and the risk of cancer. The process to register will be simple. Firefighters will register themselves through a web portal and answer a few questions. But for the NFR to be successful, we need all firefighters to participate, all of them. We are still at least a year away from registering firefighters, but we need your help now. Visit our website, sign up for our newsletter, learn more about what we are doing, and tell your members that this is coming and why it is important. I sincerely hope that our mission and our record of research and service to firefighters around the country demonstrates our commitment to doing this right. The reason we are a year away from registering firefighters is because we are crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. We are working closely with fire service stakeholders and subject matter experts to make sure the process is comprehensive, scientifically sound, and extremely secure. Taking care of these details now will help make this project as beneficial to firefighters as possible. In closing, I want to mention IARC. IARC is the International Agency for Research on Cancer. They are the world's governing body on carcinogens. Back in 2010, IARC did something unique and evaluated your occupation, firefighting. IARC classified firefighting as possibly carcinogenic, not probably or known, but possibly carcinogenic. And the reason for this classification is because of inconsistent and underpowered cancer studies. Just last year, IARC committed to reevaluating your occupation of firefighting. And the reason they want to reevaluate firefighting is because of all the new research that has been done over the last decade. This is a big deal, and it would not be happening if not for all the hard work from scientists all around the country and the success of IAFF in garnering support for this research. What NIOSH and others are doing does make a difference. We can't change what has happened in the past, but we can change what happens now and in the future. With the National Firefighter Registry, firefighters all over the country will have an opportunity to advance our understanding of cancer and ideally identify ways to prevent cancer. What an opportunity. What an opportunity for you today and for future generations of firefighters. What I wouldn't give to have had that opportunity with my father. Thank you.
Powerful. Pastor, thank you so much. And for all you continue to do.